Yeah, hey everybody, Tony Harrington here, your property investing. Hey, look, a big video here for you. If you want to look at the probably one of the biggest and best property investment opportunities that we've seen in this country for a long, long time, watch this video because I'm going to give you an overview tonight about the effect that the Olympic Games are going to have on Brisbane, the Gold Coast, and the Sunshine Coast in Queensland. Property markets are expected to soar. If you hang through to the end of this video, I'm going to actually give you some areas and some locations where we've been able to identify where the key infrastructure stuff is going to be built, where all the main Olympic venues are going to be built. I'll give you some statistics around previous Olympic cities and what it's done to property and property markets. And I'll give you some real life statistics as to what's already been going on in these areas, because with a big event like the Olympics coming to Australia in 2032, the big bounce in property actually doesn't happen during the Olympics. It actually happens before it and straight after, right? So it's really, there's a key opportunity here where you may be able to get in early, get in on the market, and get your foot in the door. And I think, the earlier people get in, if you get into the right area, get into the right location, then I'm really confident that these three areas, Brisbane, Gold Coast and Sunshine Coast, are really tipped for some big movements over the next 5, 10, 12 years. All right. And I mean, it's only 7 years till the Olympics come up. Construction, infrastructure stuff just about to start to unwind as we speak. So jobs, employment, population growth, all those things are going to start to happen. So let's roll into it, and I'll start giving you some data about where we see this market and what we think is going to happen here in this beautiful state of sunny Queensland. Oh, why do the Olympics matter? Well, what's going to happen is we've got $7.1 billion on Olympic infrastructure monies committed, so both state, federal government, private is coming in. We've got $116.8 billion in the Queensland infrastructure pipeline. This means we'll probably have around 91,600 new jobs in Queensland, and that means we're probably going to have about an $8.1 billion boost to the Queensland economy, according to KPMG. So why is that so important? Well, infrastructure is one of the biggest drivers of property growth in this country, right? So when you've got big infrastructure being built, you've got jobs, you've got employment, remember you've got things like hospitals, schools, transport, road projects, rail projects, transport situations happening. But this is all Olympic stuff, so it's sporting venues, sporting facilities, but there's a major pipeline going on in regard to other infrastructure projects like roads, tunnels, railways, freeways, all that sort of infrastructure that creates that momentum. And then what happens when that infrastructure is built? It attracts people into the area. People want to live in those areas, and therefore supply and demand starts to move and shift. And I'll talk to you about lack of supply later on and how demand's going to really make sure that these prices keep on pushing up. But, that's just some of the infrastructure statistics that we've got at this point. So let's have a look at what's happened since 2021 in these three locations. So Brisbane's median price has gone from 725,000 to 1.2 million. That's an increase of 66%. So if you own Brisbane real estate in 2021, you've made 66% on your money in just 4 years, and expect more to come. Now, could you make 66% in the stock market? I mean, they're talking 7%, 8%, stuff like that. We're looking at 66% here over a 4-year period. That's 15% per year compounding. Gold Coast, 700,000 to 1.14 million, 63% increase. And the Sunshine Coast, where I live, beautiful sunny Maroochydore, 675,000 to 1.5 million, and that's an increase of 56%. So pretty good figures, right? But here's the thing. You can still get good property inside some good price points, which is going to be really good value for investors, because there's going to be a market out there that you can tap into. My tip is, though, don't sit around twiddling your thumbs and don't sit around waiting, because this boom is not going to stop and wait for anybody. And if you miss this one, I think it's just a mammoth opportunity that you really want to get hold of. So let's talk about units as well. Brisbane, they've gone up by 55%. Gold Coast has gone up 68%, and the Sunshine Coast again gone up 58%. Right. So whether it's houses or whether it's units, you've done pretty well if you own real estate in Queensland over the last 3 to 4 years. Now, the other thing to remember too is that they're not making any more land. So the outer sprawl, which is sort of down the southeast corridor, but also up on the north side in between Brisbane and the Sunshine Coast, massive housing developments going on right through those locations. And again, we expect the push to be pretty good. But we really want to hone in here on the Olympics and where the Olympic infrastructure is going to be built, because we think that's where you're probably going to get the best bang for your buck. But having said that, price point's going to be key, because most people trying to invest in property, you're going to be dictated to by how much money can you borrow, how much money can you afford, and what area then and what type of property does that allow you to go and try to find and try to target. So I can help solve all that problem for you by showing you what to buy, where to buy, because I do all the demographic data and the research for all my clients. All you got to do is get your drakes lined up and know what your borrowing capacity is, know what your affordability level is, and we'll try and fit the bill and get you into the right property in the right area in the right location by providing all that demographic data and support. Let's talk about population and migration. Well, I think if you're in Australia, and in the last couple of years, if you haven't heard people talking about what's going on with migration in this country, you must be living under a rock, because they've brought in about, this Labor government have brought in about 1.5 million immigrants into this country in the last 2 years. Just think about this for a second, right? We've got a major housing shortage. We've got a major rental shortage. People are complaining because rents have got too high. People can't afford to buy a house because the price of houses has gotten too high. People can't find places to rent because there's 30 or 40, 50 people competing for a rental property. And yet we've got a massive trade shortage. We've got building costs that have gone up by 30 to 40% post-COVID. We've got builder and developers who are pulling the plug on projects because they know they can't get tradies. They know that materials costs have gone too high, and they can't build them for the original prices that they quoted at, right? So I sit here and look at it with an investor's hat on, and I don't really care that a government's going to sit out there and tell me they're going to build 2 million houses or 1 million houses or 1.2 million houses in the next 3 to 5 years, because it's just not going to happen. I don't give a shit, what they say, because I think they had 10 billion in that Future Australia building fund or something. They built something like 17 houses in 2 years. So I don't hold my breath there. But here's the thing, if you're an investor, you want to be looking at these demographics and saying to yourself, if there's a shortage of houses, there's a shortage of rentals, if there's mass population, if there's immigration, if there's infrastructure spending, if there's jobs coming into the area, Olympics are coming in, doesn't it tell you that there's a recipe there that something's going to happen and push prices up? And as recently as just when I done this recording, the Australian Labor government actually announced that they were bringing forward the 5% deposit that was originally meant to start in January 2026. They've now decided to bring it in and start it in October 2025. But what will this do to the property market? Well, it opens up Pandora's box, because a lot of people, obviously the reason they can't buy is they can't save a 10 or 20% deposit, right? Then you've got your stamp duty, your costs on top. But the beauty about what this does, it's not going to be good for a lot of people, but for an investor, I think it's good news, is the sense that it's going to bring more people into the market. It's going to add more urgency. It's going to add more demand. Supply is not going to pick up as quick as what they're telling us. Therefore, your supply and demand is going to get further out of kilt, and people are going to have to start paying more money for properties, because competition is what makes things happen. So I look at this and go, it's the perfect storm. It's a perfect tsunami for getting into a market that's got all the dynamics and all the demographics playing out, and it's all beaten in the same tunes to say, well, look, there's probably only one way property can go when we're talking about everything that we're talking about. And those that are in are going to make money, and those who sit on the sidelines are going to twiddle their thumbs and go, geez, I've just missed another boom, right? So let's just have a crack at a couple of these statistics. Southeast Queensland, the population growth was 3 times higher from 2023 versus 2021. The Sunshine Coast, right, which is on the north side of Brisbane, you've got Maroochydore Airport, and this area here has been the #1 regional migration for the last 9 quarters straight, right? So that means more people were moving to the Sunshine Coast than any other area in Australia, across regional Australia, right, which includes bigger cities, in both New South Wales and Victoria. Brisbane's population has gone up 11% in the past 5 years, and the Gold Coast population's gone up 10%, right? So you can already see from the statistics I've spoken about so far that population's moving in, infrastructure's coming in, jobs are coming in, money's coming in, the Olympics are coming in, supply and demand's a big problem. Therefore, we have got the perfect cocktail mix for a property price boom. Let's have a look at what's happened at past Olympic cities. And it's just a couple I've been able to put together for you. Barcelona, 1992, right? Property went up by 130%. Sydney in 2000, 53% growth. That was pre-Olympics. Brisbane Expo, 1998 and G20, 14% uplift post the event. So when these big worldwide events happen in capital cities, and in countries like Australia, chances are we're going to get a lot of exposure. A lot of people are going to see how good this city is. They're going to see how good the climate is. They're going to see how good the location is and go, gee, I think we might, buy something in this area because we think it'd be a great place to live. So again, it's going to be the cocktail mix that really drives more demand and makes prices move. Now, let me just give you a couple of little statistics here. I think I just touched on them a little bit earlier, but I'll just briefly go over them. Have a look at Brizzy. Median house price went from 725,000 to 1.2, and medium units went from 420,000 to 650. Now, I know the unit market in Brisbane really well because a fair few of my investors bought boutique apartments down there, sort of into the 2010s, 2015s, that type of area. And we didn't get a lot of kick and we didn't get a lot of movement on them. But what we did, we strategically positioned ourselves and we bought really big, good size, 2-bed, 2-bath, 3-bed, 2-bath type units in boutique developments in these inner city locations. And, clients have now picked up 50, 55% on their money. But it took a little bit of a while to get that happen because it was a bit of an oversupply back then. But now those markets are right because here's what's happening. When you're talking in Brisbane, 1.2 million is a medium, a lot of those suburbs within 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 Ks from the Brisbane CBD are going to be way higher than 1.2, a lot of properties in those areas. So what do people do? They go, you know what, I can't afford to buy a house there. I want to live close to the city. So what I'll do is I'll go and buy a unit, right? So therefore that pumps up demand of the unit. Now, just give you a quick heads up on the unit development in Brisbane. There's a lot going to happen, absolutely, but there's a lot of projects have been shelved, again, because the builders know that when they first priced those jobs 3-4 years ago, prices have gone up, tradies disappearing, they can't get the workers, materials have gone up, they can't build them for the prices that they said they're going to build them. So again, that's another key thing to know and understand, and that's going to be a key driver in that particular market. Again, the Goldie, it's gone up, and the Sunshine Coast has gone up. So again, think about these three areas because this is where the game's going to change. I'm going to go through some of the Brisbane hotspot suburbs for you, right? And I'll share with you some of the things that are going to get built in these areas. Of course, the major games infrastructure is going to be centrally located in and around the Brisbane CBD, within a couple of kilometres either way, but it's going to be on transport nodes or trains and buses and access because they've got to get people in and out of these venues. So the main Brisbane Olympic Stadium is going to get built at a place called Victoria Park, which is just 3 Ks out of the Brisbane CBD. You've got the Aquatic Centre at Spring Hill. The Athletes Village will be at Bowen Hills. They're going to upgrade RNA Main Arena in Bowen Hills, and they're also doing an upgrade to the Queensland Tennis Centre. So 5 pieces of really substantial Olympic infrastructure are neighbouring inner Brisbane suburbs just a few kilometres from the CBD. So think about that. If you parked yourself and picked up a nice property and a nice investment within the vicinity of all these facilities, because remember, they don't pull these facilities down once they're built. They actually use them and they become really an integral part of the city and become a focal point for the city. And a lot of people will live there, work there, shop there, play there, and these areas then become really high demand areas. So some of the areas where we think could do really well in this particular locale is Hurston, Spring Hill, Kelvin Grove, Bowen Hills, Newstead, Fortitude Valley, right? Here's some of the projects here, right? So here's Victoria Park. Now this was a golf course, and I think it was actually a tip, 60 years ago, or for 60 years or something, it was a tip. This is where the main Olympic stadium's to be built and other infrastructure, the Olympic Village over here, the swim centre over here, tennis centre over here, the showgrounds over here will be redeveloped as well, right? So you can see the massive scale of these projects, and it's really important that you understand that, because you can centralise yourself within and around those locations and pick yourself up a property. I think you'll do pretty well over the years to come, right? So here we go. Let's talk about the Sunshine Coast. I'm a little bit biased here. I live in the Sunshine Coast. I own real estate in the Sunshine Coast. I've invested in the Sunshine Coast. I'm on the Maroochydore City Chamber of Commerce, and there's massive, massive, massive infrastructure already happening in this region. Walker Corp are building $3.4 billion. That's right, billion, not million, 3.4 billion on the Maroochydore City Centre. So it's going to be a complete new city that gets built, 25, 30 odd high rises, offices, shopping centres. $200 million on a data centre was just brought in. They've got the main underground cables coming through too for the for the NBNs, and for all the AI infrastructure, all the new technology that's coming into the area, the health precincts that are being built around here. It's just a huge story. And again, a couple of slides ago I spoke about the Sunshine Coast being the highest migration of anybody moving into these areas over the last 9 quarters in regional Australia. So up here they're going to build the Athletes Village in Maroochydore. That's going to be over where I was talking about in that Maroochydore CBD City Centre. The Sunshine Coast Stadium, that's going to be built down at Kawana, a mountain bike centre. So property markets are going to feel the impact, and some of the areas where you might want to have a look around here, we flagged a few, but I'm really centric on a couple of them. I really like Maroochydore, I like Kawana, I like Bocarina. These are areas that you may not have heard from. Cotton Tree, I already live in Cotton Tree. This is just an absolute pearler of a little pocket of Maroochydore, which sits right beside the beach and the surf club. Couldn't get a better spot than that. All the others in there I'm a bit iffy on, but predominantly I'll be heading Maroochydore, Kawana, Bocarina, Warana, Cotton Tree, right? So that's a little bit of a spiel on the Sunshine Coast. And again, if you want help in any of these areas, I've got the boots on the ground. I've been doing Brisbane and Queensland for around 15 years now, so I know the background, I know the data. Now, this is the Maroochydore new CBD centre. It's under construction. There's already 4 or 5 towers gone up. No, there's 6 towers actually. There's another 2 just starting construction as we speak. Twin towers are heading up. And this will be where the Athletes Village and all that stuff is. Transport, infrastructure, all that stuff's got to come through. The Sunshine Stadium down there at Kawana. Look in the background over there, you can already see the development that's already going on up around here, right? There's plenty of land here to be built on, but these areas are really flying already and really doing well, so keep your eye on those spaces there. Now the Gold Coast, there's a few things happening down the Goldie as well. Of course, you've got the main transport thing going down the centre of the Gold Coast. Oh Christ, I know how long that's been going on for. I don't know how long it's going to take. I hope they get it built before the Olympics get here, but it doesn't. Every time I go down there, it just doesn't seem to be doing much. Anyway, down there you've got the Athletes Village in Benowa. You've got the Gold Coast Arena at Southport and the Hockey Centre at Labrador. So the areas where we see there, probably north side of the Gold Coast, Southport, you've got Labrador, Benowa, Ashmore, Molondina and Arundel, right? So have a look at a few of the things that they've got here. Again, that's the Olympics Village proposed over there, the Hockey Centre over there. So there's some really big stuff when you think about it. I think I said before, 116 billion being spent on infrastructure. That's a lot of construction, right? Here's what else is going on in Brizzy right now. You've got the Cross River Rail, 17 billion, Brisbane Metro, 1.5 billion, the Bruce Highway upgrades, close enough to $1 billion, the Gold Coast Light Rail extension, which I just spoke about, 1.2 billion, the Sunshine Coast Rail duplication, that is huge. That's going to bring public transport up to Maroochydore. It's heading from Beerwah across to Caloundra, and from there they're going to make their way up and get it up here into the sunny coast, into that Maroochydore CBD city. So there's some of the bigger ones there for you. And right now, rental demand and housing vacancy rates are under 1% in Brisbane. If you don't understand what vacancy rates are, that tells you from the amount of people who are looking for property to how many properties are actually available, it's under 1%, right? It's really, really tight. Rents are rising. Rents have been going through the roof, not only here, but also other capital cities as well. And it's been forecasted, and this is a really key statistic here, that Queensland could be 96,000 houses short by 2029. Now, that's only 4 years away, right? Well, it's actually 3.5. 96,000 homes. So again, can you see why I'm talking about supply, demand? If we're 96,000 homes short by 2029, that just tells me a story anyway, right? So here are the key takeaways for you in regard to the impact of the Olympics on Queensland coming up 2032. This is a once-in-a-lifetime generational catalyst, right? And I already told you all the things that are going to fuel the fire, that are going to fuel the market, and the dynamics are super, super strong, that this property boom has probably only got one way to go, right? Target suburbs near the venues, this is where traditionally you'll see the fastest growth. And the strongest returns, Brisbane, the Inner Ring, Maroochydore, and the Gold Coast corridor, right? That's sort of where we see it from our eyes and our angle. But again, I've already had property and investors in Brisbane now for the last 10, 12, 14 years, and they've done really, really well. And we expect things to keep on continuing purely based on the demographics. So here's the call to action, right? You've watched it. I've given you enough data to let you know where it's at, where we're heading, what the potential is. I would just say to you, don't miss out on the next boom. It's definitely on its way. Learn how to position yourself now. So go and talk to your finance broker or whoever does your loans. If you've got equity in your home, if you've got cash in the bank, if you've got a good income, don't let equity in your home sit there, do nothing for you. Pull some equity out. Get yourself in the game. Because, look, one of the things that I do teach all my clients, I say, listen, if you think paying off a house and having super is your answer to a happy retirement, I've got some news for you. It ain't going to be, because I know that 91% of people in this country are going to retire on or below the poverty line, because here's what they don't do. They don't factor in cost of living inflation rising and doubling every 14 to 15 years in this country as it does. And they sit there and think, hey, I'll have 500 grand when I retire. But 15 or 20 years from today, your 500 grand is going to be worth 250 because your buying power's got cut in half. And if all you've got is super, you're a sitting duck, because if the stock market crashes, something crazy happens around the world and an economy goes bust, what happens to the stock market? It goes gazit like that. So think about financial security. Think about your financial future. Think about your family, because this can be a catalyst to set up yourself, your family. You can set your kids up. But leverage off property. If you've got equity, if you can get access to money, you borrow. And when you borrow, you invest, you pay less tax, you can pay your house off. They're all the sorts of things I can teach you. So my call to action to you would be, after watching this video, get in on the game, get yourself into the market, don't be a spectator. And if you want, book a call with me now. There's a link there for you to go to. And also, I'll just take you through a one-on-one call. I'll assess your situation, assess your position. I'll tell you what I think you can or can't do. And if you think we're a good fit, we may do something. If not, nothing lost, right? And the other thing that you can do is go to my website. It's www.tonyharringtonco. That's tonyharringtonco.com. tonyharrington.com. Thanks for watching. I hope that gave you an insight into where we're heading. It's pretty exciting news. I'm pumped about it. I'm living in the right area. I'm in the right location. I'm absolutely stoked. Look, if we can help you, get you on the path and help you move and get you to a better position financially for you, your family and your loved one. Hey, listen, thanks for watching the video. Look, paying off your house and having some superannuation, it's not the answer for a wealthy retirement, right? So if you want to know how to invest in property, you want someone to hold your hand and do it for you, and I'll find the deals for you, go to tonyharringtonco.com. That's tonyharringtonco.com, and book a call with me. Click the button up top, connect with me on Facebook or connect with me via direct message, and I'm happy to help you out.